My question would be, how quickly will the military give that info on contact and what they know after if they actually do the disclosure? Well, when there is disclosure on yes, ETs are present, how long do you think the steps will be that it takes for them to say, okay, we've known them this long, this is what they've told us, and this is how many species are here, and this, what is your idea of that timeline, Steve?
Well, first of all, it's an hour and a half into this thing, and I just now have noticed that you have a parrot on your shoulder.
Sorry, he's very needy. He's a very needy.
I was hearing something, but I wasn't putting it because you're just a little. See, I got Victor on a big screen here. I can see his nose hairs, but right here you got this parrot.
Here we go.
Okay,
there you go.
Look, the first thing you need. It's a nice looking parrot. That's a nice parrot.
Yeah,
they're amazing animals.
Thank you.
First of all, the moment disclosure takes place, all right, it's no longer what is the Pentagon willing to tell us or not tell us or whatever. The whole thing now shifts to the Congress and the executive branch. All right. In other words, the basis for oversight has now been completely reestablished, and everybody will expect the president, the executive branch, and the Congress to now do its job, which it can do because cat's out of the bag, okay? And so what we're going to get after that is going to be more dependent upon what the committees are going to demand and what the president is willing to declassify, right? Now, I'm sure the people at the Pentagon will and the Pentagon is not going to be negotiating with us, I assure you, but they will be advising the president, well, President Biden, probably we could declassify this. Maybe we should hold off on that or whatever the hell. But the fact is, the president can say, I think we're going to declassify this and that and that and that. That, in other words, the president now is completely free to exercise that power. Before he couldn't, because there are no ETs. So what the hell are you exercising your power about? Yeah. And so now the question is, when will the politicians go there? Well, here's where it gets interesting, okay? The contact event is a very powerful personal thing. It's visceral. I saw a saucer once. It's like, yeah, okay, affected my life, but no, I've been taken by ET since I was 6. That's pretty significant deal. All right. So the contactees have very powerful emotional connection to this issue, and they're going to be speaking out, and everyone is a vote. And every family member of a contactee is a vote. And so the political class is going to be saying, we can't just blow these people off. We got to be careful here. We had better respond in a reasonable way, or we're going to have basically, and I've predicted this, that I'm not a contactee, but if I was, post-disclosure, I would be immediately putting together a PAC funded by nothing but contactees, a political pact in order to press their issues in front of the Congress. Okay, so they're going to have to respond. Will it be in day 1, week 1? I don't think so. Will it come up pretty quick? Yeah, it will. And they will probably do some private meetings. They will talk to contactees privately. On the Hill, just like Mellon has been giving them private briefings and so forth to kind of get up on it. They'll read some books, and then they'll deal with it. They will know from day 1. This is the toughie. This is the big one. From a political standpoint, you can make a case why you didn't bring the saucers out and offer the technology to American Airlines, but the national security basis on the contact is a little different matter. Plus, if they were doing MILAB type programs where they were simulating contact in order to get information, that is going to be one of those areas where I mean a little truth and reconciliation or something. But it is, the world's people are not going to be too upset about knowing there's ETs here. The world is going to be a lot more skittish about learning the details of the ET's contact with human beings, some of which is without question not accordance with our national laws. Okay, they're extrajudicial, and there's going to be problems there. There's going to be a lot of political issues. It's going to be tricky. It cannot be avoided.
Right.
And I believe we will learn some humans were harmed.
You.
And I don't mean this in a callous way. I want to make this, I want to be very careful and responsible when I say this. Look, every single year, 40,000 people die in automobile crashes. And 38,000 people die from gunshots, 34,000. A lot of them, most of them are suicides. That's a lot of people. We accept that. It's like, hey, it's part of being alive. It's part of being in the human reality. It's the way it is, 40,000 every year. That's 400,000 people in 10 years, okay? And we accept it. We don't make that big a deal about it. Hell, we took years just to get seatbelts. And as far as the gun deaths, well, we don't want to go there, but you get my point. And so if we learn that some people were hurt, it will not be numbers even remotely that large in service to a reality that is not something that we're familiar with, but we will learn more about. I think we can reconcile it.
You think the numbers that, when it comes to contactees and possibly getting hurt or just even contacted would not be that large? Is that what you were saying?
Well, that was the numbers I just gave you was about 75,000 deaths every year.
Okay.
I'm not even getting into the number of people that are paralyzed or hurt.
No, you're right. Yep.
And all that kind of stuff.
I misunderstood
but I'm just saying that the ETs have got a program here, and that program I think is creating some harm for people. Mm-hmm. Is it in anywhere near the numbers that we have gotten quite used to, take for granted? Okay.
Sure.
No, it is not. And so, but we will want to know why. In other words, we will expect the government to let us know what they know about the why. All right. Now, the government may legitimately be able to say, look, we don't really know the why. We have our own theories about it. If the ETs get in open contact with us,
we'll know why.
You bet. There's going to be the why. And the ETs can say, hey, none of your damn business. But then they're going to say, look, you got to get rid of your nukes or you can't fly your interstellar craft. And I'm going to say, okay, fine, we'll get rid of the nukes. First, you're going to tell us what this damn contact thing was about. And this will all be fascinating. I mean, look, I'm looking forward to this. You're talking about some great television and some fantastic stuff going on. When we're actually in an interchange with extraterrestrials trying to negotiate, what we know, what we don't know, what do you want from us and so forth. Is that cool or what?
Yeah, right? Well, the speculation is some contactees do claim that once there's disclosure, open, just as you say, disclosure, as in government says ET exists, that many of the contactees who completely don't remember will remember. It'll be like a consciousness thing where like, oh my gosh, what have I? And then you're going to have a whole bunch of people going into therapy. But
I don't know about that. I know that there is I would put my money down if I would have a slightly better chance of winning my money if I put it down on this color. I think when disclosure takes place, sometime between disclosure and open contact, but possibly very soon thereafter, I think all contact will end. I think all abduction will end. I don't think they will continue. It would be the appropriate thing to do. And post-disclosure, the things that we could do to interfere with that program are actually non-trivial.
And when you say that program, let's be clear, are you talking about the hybridization program, the reason for most abductions?
I'm talking about all of it.
Everything. Okay.
In other words, we don't do the things that we might be able to do to interfere with that because there is no there, right? In other words, for all this time, the contactees are saying, what are you talking about? So they have no support. Well, no, they have some support within the UAP community. And we know some of the people that have done that. They're saints and heroes. Medals of freedom should be given out, whatever. But in terms of the major institutions, the academics, the government, what's your problem? What are you talking about? You're out of your mind. You're crazy.
The funny thing is as I said, many contactees and abductees do say that when open contact happens, that many people will wake up, and many of those people are the engineers, the physicists, the Congress, some people in Congress, in all echelons.
Wait a minute. I misunderstood you. Look, when disclosure takes place, a lot of contactees who are in the closet are coming out. I don't think disclosure is going to trigger suddenly memories coming back. That takes something more than that.
The idea is that it doesn't trigger. It's that the ETs will open
that's up to the ETs. I don't know what the ETs are going to do, but I know this. There's going to be contactees coming out of the woods. I mean, they're going to be dropping in parachutes because they've been waiting a long time to be able to tell their story. And that's going to be wonderful to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that up too, because when we talk to experiencers every day on our Discord, and we have a small group, but their stories are amazing, and when disclosure happens and they're able to be vindicated, I think is going to be, mentally for them, it will be a release. and I'm not crazy. These aren't dreams that I'm having, or many of them know they're not dreams. So some of them have physical scars, but nonetheless. Yes.
Well, think about this. Disclosure takes place on Monday. Within a few days, the entire planet knows that the ETs are actually here. And pretty much everybody wants to know about the ETs. Where do you go? What do you send an email to the Pentagon? Right? You can call me, but I can tell you, I can only handle so many emails, right? The people you need to go see as soon as possible is the local contactee, right? So if you have if you've heard that your brother-in-law is a contactee, you immediately call him up, even though you hate the son of a bitch and haven't talked to him in 5 years. Contactees are going to be besieged. You're going to have people pretending they're contactees so people will talk to them. All right?
Yeah, not that there's already enough.
The ones that have the direct information.
Yeah.
And they're going to be very popular. They're going to be the rage. Mm-hmm. I'm very unhappy that I'm not a contactee. I mean, you'll be going to parties in Georgetown and Washington, right? You'll go to some swanky party in Georgetown and Washington, and you'll be in there, and you'll be talking to the socialite that's handling it, and there's all these hot people, and he's like, "No, I understand that your friend so and so was contacted. Are they here tonight? Are they here at the party?" Well, no, they couldn't come. Well, really? Well, look, I do have another event I've got to get to. It's been great seeing you again. I got to go.
Well, I'll say this for the abductees or experiencers that are in our group, that when many people say, "Oh, they're going to want to be the contactees," they're going to be the ones saying, "Listen, you didn't just get probed in the anus, or you didn't just get your ovaries pulled from or the pain that we've gone through," because a lot of these people are still physically having pain. One of the girls that we interviewed recently, she just started, her memory started coming back after our interview, and she was barely able to move at work. She had to go to the bathroom.
That brings up a good point. I like to make jokes. I like to have fun because it helps to communicate this issue. But I can get deadly serious. You've probably seen me do that. People who come forward as phony contactees, okay, because to get attention in the post-disclosure world, are no different, as far as I'm concerned, than people that come forward and say, "Well, I was a Navy SEAL. I was in Vietnam." Right, or I was in Afghanistan, and they weren't. To me, that's equally immoral, and I think people will reap the whirlwind on that. In other words, very quickly they'll learn that was a mistake. All right, because you didn't go through what they went through. So if you want to try to pretend to be one, we better not find out. And so I hopefully that'll be discouraged. But I totally agree with you. This is serious friggin' business, and it needs to be dealt with in a very serious way, and I believe it will be.
Yeah, and it brings up the seriousness of the issue brings up the next questions. Oh, so if those are real, why were they doing it? And and then we can go down the rabbit hole on that. But right now we'll just deal with disclosure, and then the experiencers come next, and then the MILABS. What? The military was abducting, and then the abductions where people said, "Well, there were grays around me on the table, and when I looked over, there was a window, and I saw someone in a military uniform watching." I've
given over 170 some lectures in the last 16 months, and one of the core messages I keep repeating over and over again is that to successfully getting this disclosure done is about 90% right now a successful public relations process. That's what they're doing. It's not, we got to go find this out so we'll know what to do. No, they already know pretty much what they need to know. The trouble is how you do it, and how can you do it public relations wise to minimize the damage, to minimize the blowback, to not have to suffer too much pain. They have a huge long list of uncomfortable things to address, running from unbelievably bad to just uncomfortable, and they're not looking forward to it. I'm sure a lot of people, one of the reasons they've not supported disclosure from the inside is they just don't want to have to deal with it while they're on the job. They'd like to be retired or dead. Yeah. This is not going to be easy. And this is what I talk about in my presentations and my interviews, is to try to show people all the public relations aspects of this, why it's this way, why they're doing it that way, because it doesn't make sense if it's just we need to know, but it makes a lot of sense if we need to do this, we need to just look good. It's kind of like the celebrity that did some really bad stuff. I mean, really, really bad, but they've got a lot of money. And so after it all comes out, they go out and hire one of these public relations geniuses, and their whole job is to sort of rebuild their reputation. That's what the major governments of the world, particularly the United States, have to do. They've got to go through this, and then they've got to rebuild their reputation. And that's where they're thinking right now. It is about their reputation in public relations. It is not really about, boy, I can't wait for Steve or Victor or anybody to get that information they wanted all these years. They could give a crap, right? It's like, look, we screwed up. We're going to have to come clean. Let's do it. Let's do it in a way that will be helpful to us, beneficial. But on the other hand, let's also do it in a good way, constructive way. Transparency, involve the Congress and all that kind of stuff. So there's public relations and there's responsibility. All of that is happening. But unfortunately, to do it that way, they can't be absolutely truthful. They have to be evasive. They have to be mendacious to a degree. They have to pretend they don't know things that they know. Yeah. And every time they do that, they're going to get popped. Yeah. And I'm not too unsympathetic. But the fact is that they are going to get popped, and every time they get popped is going to be a reminder to them, keep going, right? This is not fun, but keep going, because if we don't finish this off, they are going to come for us. I mean, it's going to be pitchforks and torches, and we don't want that. So let's get it done.
I was going to say, I'm sure that they'd be more open to telling us everything if we gave them amnesty or immunity. And I'm not
the entire government.
Oh yeah.
It's the trouble is we don't have that legal authority. Only
I don't want to.
Can give themselves amnesty. In other words, the government could pardon all the government. That would be an interesting move.
Well, I don't know that would be the government, but maybe that those USAPs and the contractors that have been doing this for decades, and I'm not for it. I'm not for immunity and amnesty, because I mean, if a lot of the stuff that we've heard over the decades is true, they've been not doing some very nice things.
You start by giving everybody a chance and the Congress to do their job and start getting information, okay? And it moves forward, and it's at some point, we're getting to some areas where, wait a minute, we really should be getting to know that. Let's give me a simple example. Let's say now we get to the technology issue, and enough has come out that we are aware that they've got a energy system in there that could be developed further, but it's fully classified. And so we start to press on that, and we're getting resistance. And then we're looking, we're giving you so much. We're keeping the energy thing. It's our thing, And I think at that point, I think you might have some people in the Congress go, okay, look, we are going to grant amnesty to people that come forward on this particular program. Okay. Yeah. In other words, it's basically immunity, de-emphasizing the criminality aspect, but rather giving amnesty from national security law, from being actually committing. In other words, you're being prepared, not prepared. You're being protected from actually committing a crime. You haven't done it yet, but that should organically happen, right? Give them the chance to tell the truth. Give them the chance to do it right. That is what you ideally want, and don't bring out the hardware. the pinchers and the stretching machines until you hit a really, really tough spot.
Yeah, well, it'd be great to have someone like who is at McGuire up in Canada who knows a lot. It'd be great if someone in our Congress could prepare documents that prepare those little things saying, we'll give you this, we'll give you that, especially for the energy thing, because everyone knows that in the last few decades, people think that either they have an atomic or fission or fusion, sorry, whichever, or the free energy or the 0 point.
Yeah.
And to get that out ASAP would make such a huge difference. Well, not make such a huge difference. It's just the obvious thing to do. Just get the world energy and let's go from there. Yes, okay, great. Now we know ETs exist. They got here with a propulsion system that's obviously better than anything we have. So let's get that working.
If they have free energy, if they have a major energy breakthrough they've been sitting on, it's almost as bad as if they were sitting on a cure for cancer for 2020.
I think that there has been a cure for cancer in many ways, but yeah.
Ouch. Well, that would be a public relations nightmare.
Well, you've seen plenty of things in TED Talks and stuff. I mean, I've seen that TED Talk where the guy was destroying cancer through sound. And it's funny because a lot of abductees talk about, well, heck, look at Tesla. Tesla said, if you want to know the universe, think in the way of energy, frequency, and vibration, and that's where everything is at. And many abductees talk about some of the stuff that's being done to them through those three means. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I think
Victor.
Yeah, Victor, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, the discussion is going in several different directions all at once, which is just like this issue. I mean, there's so many tentacles of this issue that you really can't count them. It's just all over the map. It's just, you can't describe all situations that are occurring all together at once. You can't say one word that encapsulates everything. But let me give you an example of what I spoke about earlier with respect to what these, whoever these extraterrestrials are, and we still don't know who they are. There's a multiplicity of them. That's all I can say about it. But the fact of the matter is that they've dealt with other planets, other species, in addition to us. They've done this before. This is not their first rodeo. But let me give you an example. Steve sort of alluded to it earlier with respect to the technology and the kinds of exchanges that could occur that could resolve a lot of the problems here on the planet with respect to the oceans and the environment and all the things, all the struggles that we're going through, and how communication with them could flatten a lot of the political issues that we're dealing with on a regular basis. Now, the Supreme Court just a few days ago ended the control of energy emissions, or whatever they did to stop the movement towards a more free and open clean of the environment. The Supreme Court did that. I can't think of anything more dastardly other than the abortion issue. Okay, and let me reframe that by flattening an issue. If we engage with these extraterrestrials, and if we engage with the contactees the way I know them, and I've dealt with literally dozens of contactees, particularly women who've had pretty bad experiences. But what we've learned from that is that these extraterrestrials could resolve one of the most contentious issues that we face today, and that is the abortion issue. And if this contact does take place, and there is a dialogue, these extraterrestrials, whoever they are, could say, listen, ladies, we know a way, if you get pregnant, we know a way of removing that fetus from you, taking it from you, so no one has ownership of it. We will take care of that fetus, bring it to some place after fetal removal, and take care of it for the rest of its life, wherever that might be. So you can go and get a fetus removed from you. And once you've done that, you rescind any kind of ownership over that fetus. We will take care of it. That will end the abortion issue overnight. Given hospitals, given clinics, where these people can go and be exposed to the technologies that we know the extraterrestrials have. We know that they inseminate women. We know that after the 3rd trimester, they take the fetus back out of them. They know that they take the fetus back to a craft or someplace where the women are revisiting the fetus. So these ETs can take care of the fetus without aborting it. That will take care of the abortion issue overnight. And that is something that I think is well within the possibility of happening if we engage in an exchange of information with respect to technology, with respect to this whole issue of abortion. That's just a small feature of how this contact could change every single thing that we do on the planet on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
I can generalize that a little bit. This is advanced stuff now. We're getting a graduate level work here. Okay. All right. So everybody should understand that. Again, we're talking post-disclosure. Now we're talking open contact. Again, I think it's 2 years. I'm loving 2 years. Okay. We know that they have extraordinary technology that allows them to fly between solar systems. Okay, that's cool. But we also know they have extraordinary bio and genetic technology that the contactees have confirmed repeatedly. And why not? I mean, this is common sense. We know where our genetic technology is right now. It's pretty profound, actually. It's amazing. Now, take it out 500 years. Take it out just 1,000 years. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it's a pretty big deal because almost all of the human failings that we have, all of the suffering that we experience, and of course our lifespan itself comes down to genetics. And this has been part of our science fiction. Theoretically, if the technology is sufficient, there's no disease that we should have to deal with. Pretty much immune to anything. Lifespan easily could be 2 or 3 times what it is. The whole aging concept, we're practically on top of that now. So they probably have the technology that would allow us to deal with the aging issue, disease issue, and I'm pretty sure they'd have some technology that would, in a more straightforward way, just be really good contraception, you know, the best in the galaxy, okay? Meaning you got nothing to worry about, people. It's in your orange juice every morning, and then whatever. I'm just saying that they probably have that. Now, if you take a technology like that, you take a technology linked with disease and aging and so forth, you have a completely different planet here. You have, in a short amount of time, a human race that's in a place they couldn't even imagine, except for one thing, and that is, of course, the population. If you have advanced aging, if you have the ability to suppress aging and disease, you end up with 20, 30 billion people that much faster. On the other hand, if you have great contraceptive technology and some global cooperation, you can maintain, without coercion, a planet of a reasonable number of people that are disease-free and live long. That's not a fantasy. That is a logical extrapolation of what you would expect in a cooperative post-open contact world, which could be just 2 years away.
And also, Steve, Steve, the capacity to have those 20 billion people moved from here to some other planet, we become a spacefaring civilization that can travel just like the ETs to the stars and colonize others. So the overpopulation issue can be resolved like that, as with many others. So we're into a totally new era of who we are. Sure. I firmly believe that this whole situation is reflecting the fact that regardless of the politics and everything, we are on the first step, on the threshold of our first step as a new species. We will become a new species eventually after contact is made. So we will be evolving in ways that we will never expect. And that's going to come from this whole idea of becoming a spacefaring civilization. In addition to what Steve is doing in the elimination of disease, it will have other impactful implications.
Well, once you get into genetics, almost anything is possible, and so consequently, I support every nation having a department level Secretary of Scientific Ethics. We don't have that, and we need to get one real soon. I can assure you. Yeah, look, the milestones we're about to cross, the paradigm shifts that are about to happen, are beyond even what most of the better science fiction novelists could have written in the 50s and 60s, and even now. Though even now we are seeing some writers that actually can almost figure it out and go there. So the change that we're going to experience over the next 60 years, and God, I wish I could live those 60 years, will be beyond anything we can comprehend. Now, the question is, well, how well will it go? right? How will we handle these opportunities? These are decisions that will be made in the early post-disclosure world and the early post-open contact world. The issue of AI and robots is coming on really fast. That's a big issue. Got to deal with it. The issue of extended life, got to deal with that. And then the ability to genetically take us to places we can't even imagine, which means to create what amounts to not even a human. The ability to genetically do almost anything. We will have that ability eventually, but we might have it a lot sooner if we get into direct contact with extraterrestrial and start sharing tech. And so one of the things that I'll be pushing for post-disclosure right away out of my Paradigm Research Group, which later this year is going to be converted finally to an actual nonprofit think tank. And then I just need to go raise $10, $20 million and I'm rocking. The point is that this is exactly the kind of issue a post-disclosure think tank needs to be looking at. Based on what's coming at us and what post-open contact could bring, we need to start making the decisions and legal changes and whatever to be able to deal with it. We can't have dramatic new genetic technology and it's a Wild West free-for-all. That's going to be madness, right? I mean, there have been some science fiction books that have gone into this, right? We don't want to go there. We've got to have some sort of ethics and morality and order to how we're going to deal with the next scientific evolutions, which are going to be possibly spurred by ET interconnections and tech. Now, they've been there and done that, and so they'll probably have some advice for us. But let's face it, right now, we are still immature. We don't really have, I think, we're a 17-year-old, galactically speaking, and we're not mature to handle what's coming at us, but it's coming regardless. And ultimately, or another way to put a positive spin on it is this. The world right now is in a tremendous state of anxiety because people collectively, either consciously or subconsciously, have figured out that our solutions can't match our problems anymore, right? We got a lot of problems, we don't got the solutions. And that's really not a good thing because these are big problems. Post-disclosure and post-open contact, we may go from that to, oh, we got lots of solutions. We can solve these problems. There's nothing we can't really solve. Right now, we can't even, we can't solve much, all right? That could change overnight. And it needs to change overnight. Why? This is a dead horse that I'm going to continue to be. No, I shouldn't. That's a terrible analogy. This is something I'm never going to give up on. And that is this. This state of being where we don't have the solutions for our problems is creating an enormous amount of anxiety and unrest in a world that's armed to the teeth. All right. And so we might need to punch through that. If we don't, then where we're going collectively, we're going to have that nuclear war. We're going to have that accidental nuclear war because a lot of fed up, distressed people or whatever the hell, or some angry NGO is going to launch a nuke. So we got to punch through this now. We got to get to the other side where we have the solutions for the problems that we don't seem to have now. And it'll cut the anxiety down, and maybe people will be willing to start talking about, hey, let's get rid of the nukes. It'll be helpful if the ETs say, yeah, you got to get rid of the nukes. And we'll say, no, we're not. We love our nukes. And they'll say, fine, but you're never coming out with us. You're never leaving this planet, right? You're going to have interstellar drive before the end of the century, unless we give it to you sooner. And you're going to put the nukes on your damn spaceship and fly out of here. That ain't going to happen. And so you don't get rid of the nukes. You don't come out with us. And you don't get any tech from us either. You've acknowledged we're here. We've confirmed that we're here. Now, what are you going to do? And if your attitude is it's nukes, uber all, fine, right? But you're not leaving the planet. And if you blow yourself to kingdom come, hey, it's a big galaxy. There's a whole lot of civilizations out there.
I call that the Great Ultimatum, Steve. Exactly what you've just articulated.
It's a hell of an I hope they deliver it with some diplomacy. It's like, look, we'd really like you to consider the possibility that that if you did not have the nukes, you would not be at risk of annihilation. And then you could then have starships and come out and engage with us. And as a galaxy, it's really fantastic. The buffets that we serve at our home planet to die for, okay? All of these things are available to you. On the other hand, if you have to have these nukes, well, what can we say? We're just going to stand back, and if you want to screw yourselves, that's fine. And
do you think that
answer, but you're not going to get that either.
Let me ask you, as you know, part of the whole process here, whoever these beings are, and I keep on saying this all the time, whoever they are, the multiplicity, is there a sense that there is, you know, one voice among them, or do they speak collectively, or how is it that they will communicate all of these so-called ultimatums to us as a galactic federation? I don't like that term, but I mean, how will these things be delivered to us as a species so that we don't go running off in all directions and saying, well, we believe them, but not them, and all of that? How do you think that communication might take place?
That's a good question. And I think there's another one I'm waiting to hear. What we do know is they seem to be cooperating with each other already to some degree. We have plenty of contact reports where more than one species of ET is in the room at the same time. All right, so there you go. We also know that they're operating in the same planet. They don't seem to be shooting at each other. There's possibility in the past they used to do that. I'm not convinced of that, but maybe they did. Maybe in the early days they were less cooperative and they'd have a little, you know, air to air, whatever, but not in the modern era. Okay, so they're cooperating. So logically, if there's going to be open contact, you would imagine that there'd be a kind of a singularity there. In other words, this is what we're going to tell you. We're going to be in a similar situation. After World War II, on his desk when he died, Roosevelt had the full write-up for the plan for the United Nations, because he felt that in a post-World War II era, we had better form a really global organization superior to the League of Nations so that we could avoid having any more wars. Okay, fine. After disclosure, the need for United Nations grows even greater, but for a better reason. Well, actually, for both reasons. And one of the things I bring up is this: we're going to have two choices. One is to reform the current United Nations, which is a mess and simply is not appropriate for where we're going, or simply disband it and start a brand new global organization. One of those two things has to happen, because the ETs are not going to be cutting deals with 20 different countries, or going to go to the Catholics and talk, go with the no. They're going to be talking to the planet. They're going to be engaging the planet. They don't have time, I think, to get down into the granular stuff. And so I would expect a one voice communication, and then we need to have pretty much a global response that is one voice of many. And that means a real United Nations without this stupid ass Security Council and all the veto power and that nonsense. And that sounds like total utopian, but in fact, we could do it in a couple of months. I mean, it's just a matter of doing it and agreeing to do it. And again, in a post-disclosure world, the motivation will be high. And the motivation will be stronger, I think, than what we faced with the United Nations after World War II, because that was all about, okay, we got to get together for this group because we're got to have these nuclear weapons, we're going to have another war, and it's all negative. And whereas with the ET issue, it's just we need to come together with a global organization, not sovereign over countries, but a global organization, so that we as a species can speak with some unanimity to these other species that are engaging us. That's a very positive thing. And I think the countries will agree. Yeah, absolutely. Right? Because then they have no choice. Some countries, say Canada, could say, look, hey, ETs, I don't know what you're going to say to these other people. You want to deal with us, you talk to us. Okay? You talk to us. Sit down, talk to us. Okay? We got our own concerns here. Right? So maybe you want to cut a deal there. Hey, but here's what we want from you. That ain't going to happen. All right? And so we will have a new global organization. We may get rid of the nukes. We may have levels of cooperation never before seen. And given the trillions of dollars we spend on warfare, defense, offense, and nuclear weapons, huge amounts of those resources are now suddenly available to put some of these tent people living just outside my window into some housing with some food and clothing. We could transform overnight. Now, that is a possibility. It is, I think, the most logical outcome. However, boy, there are some curveballs the ETs could throw us. There's some things that we may learn. Oh, my God. It may not be a total walk in the park. But I don't think they have gone to all this trouble to engage us this long, particularly in the modern era, if not in ancient times, that they are dealing with our nuclear issues. They have not been violent with us in a significant way. I don't think they have they put the crop circles down every year in the UK, God bless them. I just don't see them doing that for the outcome of open disclosure being, oh my God, you mean that's what it's all about? I mean, really? Or worse, okay, you acknowledge us, and now we've talked to you, we're leaving now, okay? Right, we're done, we've got somewhere else to go, take off. Oh, and by the way, you can't have the nukes. We've blown all those up. We're gonna leave you that, but then we're gone, and we may not be back for 2,000 years. That's the worst case scenario. I'm gonna be really upset if that happens.
Yeah. Well,
it's really irritating.
I was gonna say worst case scenario is this. This is speculation. If you don't want to talk to it, just say But is hearing from again from the contactees or abductees and their stories saying the speculation of the military and these guys are also holding back disclosure as long as possible because of one of two things: either a nuclear war that is coming that the ETs have always shown us, or the solar flash that's supposed to happen in the next 1-2 solar cycles that's supposed to also kind of wipe us out a little bit. And then it gives the military who has known about this less of a population to have to fess up to.
I'm always skeptical of any theory that I absolutely saw in a movie within the last 10 years. You know, it's like, the old solar CME thing, I'm going, I've seen Knowing 3 times, okay? One of Nicolas Cage's better movies. I love the ending of that film. And we could go on and we could go on. The film industry is giving us a very robust, a variety of theories about the universe, and people are embracing them. But it comes down to this. Is there hard evidence for that? No. And by the way, since you brought it up, I think one of the most significant misconceptions in the entire contact field, I could be wrong, I'm not a contactee, is that some contactees have interpreted images that they have been given as being the future, which is kind of a downer because these images are awful. Apocalyptic, post-nuclear, environmental destruction, and so forth, which means that they have the ability to see into the future. I don't believe they do. I believe what they're being shown are warnings. There is a big difference between a warning and actually seeing the future, okay? It's a difference in your doctor saying, if you don't change your diet, you're going to die, as opposed to your doctor saying, you're going to die on October the 20th, 2027. So that is a very significant misconception, I believe. I hope I'm right about that.
It was said in John Mack's abduction book, the same thing. It's like John Mack did write that. He said, these could be warnings. They may not be looking forward in a time. The aliens, the ETs could be just saying, hey, this is what can happen. And this is on the road you're on. Take a look at this.
Yeah, and some contactees have actually said that they have been told that. In other words, they're showing them these images and saying, look, this is
the future,
your future, the way you're going. And that ties very nicely into the turning off of the nuclear weapons. All right. If they melted them all down, which they could do, then they wouldn't have a nuclear war, right? They wouldn't have any weapons to have one. Therefore, predicting a war they could easily stop, that doesn't make sense. However, if they're trying to keep reminding us without taking over the whole planet, which they'd be insane to do. I mean, run this planet? Oh my God, it's got to be the worst job in the galaxy. The point is, warning us by turning the nukes off fits exactly in that scenario. Here's what's coming. We get it. We were there once. It's a bitch, but we care about you, right?
Yeah.
We like your genes. We like your women. Whatever. We like your cattle. We like your the cattle blood, whatever. The point is that we care about you. And so we actually, but more importantly, we are an advanced space exploring, high-tech civilization, far more competent than we think. We focus on our stupidities, which are endless, but in fact, we extraordinarily accomplished in our technology. We are more than ready to be part of interstellar civilizations.
Right.
We wouldn't be number one, but could we be? Absolutely. We're more than ready. And so, what the hell? I mean, we're ready. We're ready. It isn't required that we have perfect politics or the population is just the right size. It just means we have certain technological capabilities, right? And we have them both in AI, in genetics, in propulsion systems, in electronics, and any number of areas of research. We have made enormous accomplishments, and so we could hang out with them. But at the same time, we have nuclear weapons, and that destroys it all. By the way, I believe you've got circumstances out there that have happened, probably more often than this, where a civilization gets to where we are, atomic physics, quantum mechanics, without the nukes. Didn't get the nuke thing. They didn't have the war shit, right? And so it's 1947, well, let me put it this way. It's mid-20th century, and everybody's getting along just fine. We don't have any nuclear weapons, and boom, we're in full open contact. All right? In other words, it didn't have to be that way. That's our situation. This is not the only way this could have gone. Our situation, because of the nukes, which I think has also happened elsewhere, presents a special, more difficult problem for them to go from they're around. Oh no, we fully acknowledge they're here. We engage them. This is much more difficult when you're sitting on, we had 80-some thousand nuclear weapons in the 1980s, all right, armed to the teeth. So they're dealing with that. And one of the questions I would ask them is, what was the strategy? Besides just turning off nukes, what other things were you thinking and doing as you negotiated through this last 75 years? Obviously, you could have simply been open to us. You could have burnt and melted our nukes down. You could have done a lot of things, but why this approach? Why take this long? This would be an incredible question to ask.
I lean towards the Prime Directive myself, being that we have to make the choices, but they can do, like turning off the nukes. Let's just make them think a little bit. They see a little thing flying or hovering above a military thing, they turn off the nukes, and let's make them think, because in the end, it has to be their choice.
That's still a violation of the Prime Directive. However, we don't care because Star Trek violated the Prime Directive in every single show. Okay, every single one. Yeah. All right, and then they keep bringing the damn thing up, and it always irritated me. I say, come on, man, Roddenberry, right? They don't have to be hypocrites, but it was a kind of a cool thing that they could use whenever they needed to, right? They throw it in, but then they do it later. Yep. Let me tell you something. If we had the interstellar craft and we were out there flying around some of these other planets, seeing some of these various civilizations and we'd violate the hell out of the Prime Directive.
Oh, yeah. Hey, they got resources. We're going to take, it's like Avatar. but to that, though, I'll say that I guess, okay, so my definition of the Prime Directive might be different because I am taking from other channeled sources of what ETs have said they're doing. And that is basically it. They can give us reminders. They can give us little things indirectly, but they can't interfere directly by coming down and saying, hey, you guys, you got to stop doing this. But they can turn things off, and they say it has to be our choice. So, yeah, I may have got the Prime Directive a little wrong, but it's very similar.
Well, that's the question. I mean, I call that this will be taught in PhD programs in exopolitics in the 2030s, where we've already had ET open contact, and they're having a class, and the professor, who's had actually a lot of contact with them directly, I mean person to person, but obviously is gone to a off-planet program, and they're discussing the strategies of how they did this and what the implications were and how they went about it, and so forth, and how it all worked out. that is going to be taught. That's going to be something we're going to study in not that many years from now. And that's, that's a logical extension of what we're seeing. That's cool.
And what do you think about
20 years old right now?
What do you think about the NASA research on UFOs?
Basically, well, NASA's known about the ET presence since it was formed.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, NASA finally was freed up. NASA operates under the control of the Department of Defense with respect to anything that is national security, and the ET stuff is absolutely national security. So NASA was completely hogtied on this issue from day one. I mean, really hogtied. I mean, it wasn't they could play around with it. Though a couple of astronauts, but in retirement, got involved. So NASA was locked down. They didn't fool with it. NASA was given the green light by somebody, the DOD, step in, right? And that green light happened earlier because Nelson was specifically selected to be the administrator of NASA because of what was coming. They knew that they were going to have to step into the UAP issue. They knew disclosure was coming. And so they made a former member of the Senate Intel Committee, an astronaut, to be the administrator of NASA. He is the perfect person to take NASA forward. And so then NASA was then given the green light. Bill was given the green light. Step into the UAP issue now. It's okay. And they did. All right. Now, did they come out and say, yeah,
Steve, I think we just had a network issue. Can you back up a sentence and start again with that?
Oh, yeah. I believe that this whole process leading to disclosure really got underway back in 2017. Actually, it got underway in 2016-15 as the To the Stars Academy group came together, right, to form and start that agenda. But at some point, the DOD realized they were going to free NASA up to go UAP. And so the first thing they do is to select Nelson as the administrator. He's the perfect person. Senator, Intel Committee, and an astronaut. And then at some point, he got the green light. He comes out. He says, we're looking into it. Or he made statements about the fact that there's something we don't understand. And then they formally say, we're investigating UAP. Okay, well, that's the same thing as the Department of Defense is investigating. That's not what it means. And that's why people are getting frustrated. What do you mean you're investigating UAP? You didn't know about it before? Of course they knew about it before. But the first step is NASA has to get on board, step across the line, right? And be seen as being part of the solution. And then things will heat up a little bit more, and then we'll have the hearings, and then we'll have disclosure, and then at some point, somebody associated with NASA or formerly associated will kind of let it drop that, yeah, we were aware of the ET presence literally from the day we were formed in '58, but we simply could not address that. We stayed within our lane. Please don't be harsh on us. Right? That will unfold in that orderly way. So, but the fact that NASA has now stepped into this, along with so many other entities and individuals, is simply more confirmation that disclosure is coming. And I'm going to be very forgiving of NASA. They had no choice, right? So many times they've had to lie when asked certain questions about, again, not ideal, but I understand it. But the fact that they've now stepped into it is all you need. And by the way, Nelson will be testifying. You can imagine Nelson will be testifying on the Hill. So will be some former astronauts, I think, will be testifying.
Yeah.
Okay, so you all were I just had a network drop and everyone left. Just about 30 seconds or a minute after I said there was a network drop, Steve back up. But you all were seeing each other. Obviously, Steve's still talking. You all still see each other?
Yeah.
I'm just concerned. I'm just concerned that in my recording, it's not going to come out, and I just missed a whole bunch of what you said, Steve. Sorry about that, but I'm glad you guys were able to hear it.
I want to ask another question because I heard on Twitter chatter about some announcements around the James Webb Telescope photos that will come out. I believe it's 12th of July. Mm-hmm. And there was some chatter of NASA people saying they were talking serious. So there is something coming. I don't know exactly what, but I heard some serious chatter. Yeah. I don't know if
Victor, you
have
want to take
heard
that?
it already.
Not aware of it. Your
I
mic's on.
I have to plead ignorance on that one. I'm not aware of that issue at all. Sorry.
Look, there are several things that are happening right now, which I'm watching. Mars. There was a recent announcement, about the carbon residue that might be from life on Mars. A Webb telescope. One of the things underway, one of the things that might happen before even disclosure, and consider it an hors d'oeuvre before the big meal, is that NASA may confirm ancient life on Mars. Absolute confirmation that there was life at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. The Webb telescope is so good that it may actually be able to confirm life on a extrasolar planet, right? In which case, that would be cool. All right. And it would bring, first of all, it would be a public relations win for them. Everybody would love it. And it would soften up the process. It would make it even easier for the members of Congress who are always skittish about doing anything difficult to move on these hearings, right? So life on Mars, ancient life on Mars. Clearly that planet out there has got a biosphere that has life because we're picking up certain things based on the telescope. These would be preliminary acts that would fit nicely into the process. So I've been watching for those. It wouldn't shock me if we get something like that. It could even be as strong as a structure on Mars, meaning, you see that? That ain't natural, okay? And we didn't build that, okay? So obviously there must have been intelligent life on Mars a long time ago. All dead now, all gone, nothing to worry about. But you see, that tends to set the stage, doesn't it? I would do that if I was NASA. I would do that if I was JPL. I think another country might do it. That's all fine, unless it's used as an excuse to delay, meaning, we found possible life on Mars. Let's focus on that for a couple of years and we'll get back to the UAP stuff. No way. So there's a lot of wheels turning right now in a lot of places all around the world. It's going to be impossible for anybody to follow it. But for everything we're seeing happening right now, that's probably 10% of everything that's going on in governments, in agencies, militaries, and scientific communities. All the scientists in the world of any quality are aware of these developments regarding UAPs. Yes. And so they're all already, their wheels are already turning. And so again, there's more than one Avi Loeb out there, but they haven't gone public yet.
Well, another one, if I could interrupt, is, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. John Brandburg, his work.
Yes.
Right. Sure.
I mean,
John?
he is, he's pretty, get him on the show. He's pretty articulate about his assessment that there was, in fact, some sort of thermonuclear event on Mars millions of years ago. So put that together with what the Webb telescope is discovering there, and there just may be, a vase or two there that's radioactive, that we could prove the fact that they did have a nuclear event.
Also, there's some of the whistleblowers that say that they worked in the NASA photo labs airbrushing structures out of the moon. So
Donna Hare, she passed a while ago. She didn't live to see this. I'm going to be on with Hoagland tonight on Other Side of Midnight, and I'll probably say again to what I've said to him 1,000 times, Dick, all they got to find is one little toy train on Mars. Toy. One in your whole life has been vindicated, right?
You know what I like is like, say, I think Jimmy Church said this on Christina Gomez's show, but he said, if the military doesn't have a base on the moon, they haven't been doing their job. But
exactly. Why not have a base on the moon?
I agree with them. It seems like, with like Mark McCandlish's Fluxliner and so forth, you can go on that the military has probably had the means, as they always say, Ben Rich said, to take ET home. So, but
how about this? I'm going to get excited. I have on my keychain a little thumb drive. Okay, it's I don't think I have it. It's actually you can see this. This is a USB. Just take that part of the USB, just the end part. It's that big. All right, 2 terabytes.
Yeah,
okay? 2 terabytes on this damn thing. right? I mean, you could have your entire life on it and lose it right at a gas station. Okay, so let's imagine, what do you think the storage capacity is of the ET tech? All right.
Oh.
And so once you go there, okay, post open contact, John Brandburg puts in a question on a TED talk, that an ETs are given. And they say, oh, yeah, that nuclear thing that happened on Mars about 47 million years ago. We have film of that. Hang on a second. We'll pull it up, right? They may have records of things going back millions of years on this planet and elsewhere that we just might be able to see.
They say that there was ET contact has said that there's probably even another planet between Mars and Jupiter. And that's what the asteroid belt is. But we don't need to go there.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, they may have records. I'm just saying that we may be in a position to learn things we can't even dream of, including actual imagery of our planet millions of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They've been coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I mean, talk about you want to get kids back in school. But again, the thing I keep emphasizing is that all this incredible stuff I'm talking about is not science fiction, and it could be a couple of years away. Mm-hmm. And the only reason that it isn't arrived already is of the truth embargo. Yeah. And so let's not get carried away with these drone thingies and keep the focus on getting the Congress to have the hearings. Yeah. And then we won't have to speculate so much.
Yes, I agree. And with that, we are now at 2 hours and 33 minutes. So I'm going to break this into a two-parter. But let's do final thoughts, because I know that Nigel needs to go and I have to go shopping.
I think your parrot needs to go too. Your parrot has turned his back on us.
I'm ready for him to.
I'm out of here.
One, but and also, Steve, you do say that you will have an announcement around the 25th or 26th. So we do want to have you back on.
Sure.
So let's do final thoughts. Let's start with Victor and we'll end with Steve. So Victor, final thoughts.
Wow. It's been, first of all, it's been a great experience being with you all. The openness of the conversation is sort of indicative of where we have to go in order to, begin a solid narrative about this discourse and the exchange that people have to have. And one day, this conversation will be replicated in committee rooms and in town halls, in restaurants, on buses, on subways. They'll be talking about this in exactly the same way we are right now. That's eventually going to happen. That's one final thought. And I guess the other final thought that I have is that this may sound a little esoteric, but I'll lay it on you anyways. But once we find out what this whole situation could be about, or is about, or will be about, it will be, in my assessment, totally different than we think of it at this point in time. It will be just something that will not be able to fathom as a human species. It'll be so different than what we expect. First of all, because of the nature of the issue, and second of all, because of the multiplicity of civilizations that are out there. So it'll be totally different, and it'll change us all in ways that we can never expect. So those are my two final thoughts.
Thank you.
My thought would be this: that it's time. I total respect for the researchers and everybody in the field. Okay. But it's really time for us to start moving from proving anything and from the phenomena and start preparing for the post-disclosure world. Start preparing for disclosure. That's, if only because almost all of the issues that are being addressed right now are going to be a lot easier to address post-disclosure. So let's get that done and make it easier on everybody. But we need to prepare for this. And not by we, I mean everybody. Everybody in the country needs to have at least a chance to learn what's going down right now. And what's going down right now is the disclosure process is entering its final weeks and months. So that's my final thought. And then we can return to the phenomenology as granular as we want after disclosure, but we may have government help there. We may have government information to add, and we're going to get a lot of clarity. A lot of the nonsense will fall away, and we'll be focused on more solid information. And it will be an extraordinary learning curve, but we have to get disclosure. Without disclosure, we're going to continue to dance around in the dark.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. So now I want to hear any final thoughts and thank yous from Adam, then Nigel, and then finally Ramsey.
And by the way, Adam, next time, don't talk so much, okay?
No, generally, like, I really just like to absorb really
I
what
get it.
is, because really I'm an experiencer myself, so I guess you could say I've lived some of it. I've come to find that I might have some unpopular opinions about the phenomenon, so generally I like to hear everybody's perspective. That way I can kind of reflect on my own and kind of just, decipher that over time. But generally, I think what the biggest change really let's just say the last 3 years is how the conversation is starting to develop, where it's definitely changed, and we're actually been able to slowly and slightly reduce some of the speculations, where we actually have concrete data and the public is aware of that data, and some of the researchers too. So it's just really the small, I guess you could say, or the long road of disclosure, but I think it's really going to start very softly, as we're starting to see, and slowly ramp up, because it's going to be an extreme culture shock to some people. So hence why I think the narrative is really almost seems to be like designed to slowly just start politically, start these little conferences that are kind of like a joke, in my own opinion. Speaking of the one that was just happening in the US like a couple months ago, start it slow and then slowly start to build it through that. But yeah, it was great. It was really entertaining just listening to all the perspectives and things. But yeah, thanks again for being on here.
Nigel.
I'd like to say thank you very much to Steve and Victor for putting up with all those persistent emails and making it onto this show. We're absolutely honored and privileged to have you guys on board, and we'd love to have you on at any point down the line, especially for important announcements and things of that nature, but also an invitation to please bring on board to meet and discuss at open forums like this anyone you think that can help move the agenda in the right direction. And in my humble opinion, I think the biggest stumbling blocks to disclosure are the lack of control that will ensue. People don't want to give up control, and greed, two fundamental aspects of human nature that probably are stumbling blocks to disclosure. People want to keep control, they're afraid of losing control, and human greed, which God knows there's no end to it. I think the more we have these little open conversations, these itself will slowly gain momentum and have a sort of a mini chain reaction and get good, credible information out there so that people who are interested can really partake to a greater degree.
Very good. Very good.
Rem, final thoughts.
Yeah. Well, from a European perspective, in Europe, people have the idea that they have to defend a scientific consensus. Science started here, so we have to defend science. And what happens in America is all bullshit, etc. That's generally what people think. And it's a pity, because a lot is happening. And a lot of people are in their own bubble of reality. And in their daily life, they don't hear anything about UFOs. So suddenly there is little news coming, it was on the journal and on the websites, news broadcast. So now people are finally realizing, hey, there is something going on. But it took me 28 years to get where I'm now. So yeah, I think it's important that we and the community helps the people to inform them when the time comes, because there will be a lot of assumptions being made, a lot of assumptions and conspiracies from people who aren't that conspiratorial. So I think there's a lot ahead, and there's a task for us, a real task for us. Yeah.
Excellent. I was gonna. Well, my final thought is, this is a great talk. I still wanted to. There's still so much to talk about, as Victor said there's so many tentacles here. I mean, I wanted to go into the consciousness aspect too, but we'll do that the next time we have both of you on, hopefully sooner than later. Yeah, disclosure in Steve's definition, I feel like is hopefully a few years away. I actually feel it's farther, but I really hope you're right, Steve.
You're killing me. Come on, man. I don't have that many years left. Come on. Give me a
I'm
break.
with you. All right. I agree. But I guess I'll say this. If Victor and Steve, if you guys want to have another final thought to what we said, or just say thank you. Are we good? Okay.
We're good.
All right. Well,
we're achieving disclosure one podcast at a time.
One podcast.
So true. We need you guys out there doing many podcasts, spreading the word. So again, thank you both very much. We will have you back on for your disclosure, Steve, in the next few weeks. And Victor, hopefully you can make it for that as well. And we'll keep in touch. As for the UFOB gang, thank you very much for tuning in and watching, and have a great day. My bird says have a great day too. He just can't talk to his day. But thank you both. Thank you both again for being on.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.